In this week's episode of Sword Art Online 2, Kirito finally enters Gun Gale Online, and we also get to learn the backstory of the badass sniper queen, Sinon. The build-up to Kirito finally getting into Gun Gale Online was astronomical, to say the least. We're at the third episode of the series, and I can understand if some fans are kind of disappointed over the fact that we really haven't had that much Gun Gale action yet. I imagine after this week's episode, things are going to really start to pop off. But before I get into Sinon's backstory, I do want to say that all of the Kirito stuff this week was definitely saved for at the end of the episode when he finally goes to this hospital after saying goodbye to Asada and letting her know that he's about to go try out this brand new game. But I imagine he probably left some details out. However, when he finally arrives to this place, he's greeted by a very familiar face, and it's his very friendly nurse who's going to help him out and watch his body over this process. It's just a very funny scene, and I love the letter that the guy from Internal Affairs sent him when he mentioned at the end, P.S. Don't think you can get away with anything just because you're alone in a room with a hot nurse. The big thing to take away from this week's episode is that we get to learn about Sinon's backstory, and we get to see what she's like in real life. In the real world, she is known as Shino Asada, and what I think is a really nice twist to her Gun Gale counterpart is that in real life, Shino is horrified of guns. Just seeing one, or even just seeing someone do this, will flip her shit. And that's because she had a very traumatic childhood where she actually ended up killing this dude while trying to save her mother. And the scene here is really, really intense. Basically, it's just her and her mom going to this bank, and this one crazy crackhead just walks in, starts demanding money, and starts shooting people left and right. And when he starts to point the gun at Shino's mom, she flips out and starts to attack the guy Mikasa style, then takes his gun and accidentally shoots him, then shoots him another time in the shoulder, and then once more in the head, just for good measure. What's really messed up about this scene is the way that Shino's mom actually reacts to all of this. When she sees her daughter actually kill this guy, she isn't elated over the fact that everyone was just saved. She looks like she's freaked the fuck out because her daughter just went all freaking psychopath. And it's a really messed up scene, and it also shows that her and her mother are probably going to have an estranged relationship, because in the end of the episode you learn that she lives alone, but she has a relationship with her uncle and her aunt, apparently, but I don't know what happened to her mother quite yet. But that's the whole point of Shino getting into Gun Gale Online, is she's trying to sort of like use it as immersion therapy. This was actually the idea of her good friend Shinkawa, who I think is actually the Death Gun. This is just my theory right here. First and foremost, we get to learn in this episode that this Death Gun guy is like looking for certain players in the game to kill, and one of them just happens to be Sinon in the game. And at the end of the episode, you do get a glimpse at this guy, and he clearly has the same type of haircut, and he has a really creepy smile, which her friend Shinkawa never does, but it seems to make sense why he would be hanging out with this girl so that he could find her in the game and kill her. Why he wants to do this, I don't know. Like I said in the last episode review, in the actual intro of the show, when you actually see like the imagery of her hanging out on the playground, and you get to see Shinkawa is there, at least that's who I think it is. I mean, it looks just like him, and you see Death Gun there as well, and I imagine that's either literally him or like he was actually killed by him or something. I'm not really sure what to take from this. It's really confusing, but I imagine that Shinkawa is probably Death Gun, and he's just sort of like bringing Shino along on this like weird little trip before he kills her, which I think is really messed up, and it certainly adds a brand new dynamic to this, because obviously the story in this one is not that a lot of people are trapped into a game, it's that someone just has this ability to kill people within it. And that is something that will differentiate it from the other seasons. What's the rundown on this week's episode of Sword Art Online 2? I really liked it. Obviously, I want to get some action in here. In the first season of Sword Art Online, all the action scenes were really, really impressive, and even in the first couple of episodes, they did some really crazy stuff, and some of the things they teased with Sword Art Online 2, like with the Gun Gale Online stuff, just seems like it's going to be really, really fun. And, you know, we haven't even seen Kirito get into the game yet, so we don't even know what he's going to be capable of. If the intro is any indication, it looks like he's mostly going to be using melee weapons, those weird little lightsaber things, which that'll be really awesome in and of itself. But it's how him and Sinon are going to meet is what I'm really interested in. And obviously, the fact that I think that Shinkawa is actually related to Death Gun, or might be Death Gun, and she has a relationship with Sinon, and, you know, obviously those three characters are going to, like, mingle, and they're going to mix. there is going to be a connection between all of them, and I can't wait to see how that's going to unfold. Otherwise, the backstory of Shino was really messed up. Obviously, in these anime series, a lot of the times with the main characters, they love to give them a really traumatic and messed up backstory, which allows you to sympathize with them a little bit more. And after seeing this week's episode, I can definitely say I sympathize with Shino, and I will say that she's probably my most favorite female character of the show thus far, but that's probably because of how she was developed more in the real world. Because Asana's an interesting character, but most of the time we just saw her in the game world and in a comatose state. And the whole thing with Kirito and his cousin, I don't even want to talk about that. That's just a Pandora's box of incestuous ridiculousness. But I really love Shino. I think she's going to be a really well-developed character, and I can't wait to see if Gun Gale Online is actually going to help her with her problems. Otherwise, the animation and the artwork this week wasn't too crazy. This wasn't like a really bombastic episode, but everything looked really clean and consistent. Shino in real life doesn't look too different from Sinon, aside from obviously the attire and the hair color, but she seems obviously much more timid in real life, but that makes sense. So all in all, I thought this was another great episode of Sword Art Online that had a few pacing issues and a little bit of clumsy exposition here or there, but it's got me really excited for Kirito finally getting ready to go into Gun Gale Online. And the character of Sinon just seems like she's going to be very, very interesting because she has a well-developed backstory before we get to see her meet Kirito. So that's going to allow us to appreciate her more and like her more as a character. So there it is. Loved this episode. It wasn't perfect, but it was still really entertaining, especially for fans of the series. So I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. Check it out, guys. Cool episode. Thank you guys for watching my review today. Before you leave, please give this video a thumbs up and hit that like button. It really helps us out a lot. And make sure to subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Also, please tell me what you thought about this week's episode of Sword Art Online 2. What did you think about Shino Asada's backstory? And who do you think the Death Gun actually is? Do you actually think it is Shinkawa? Please tell me your theories below. Remember guys, you can also check us out on Facebook and on Twitter. I'll put links to those in the description box below. So guys, that concludes my review today. Super Kami Guru 9000. Peace out, dudes.